Anyone who remembers Angelica Pickles from the show Rugrats knows she is mean, selfish, and loves sweets. She was almost always cruel to the babies Tommy, Chucky, Phil, and Lil. On rare occasions, she had a soft, compassionate side they would see only a handful of times. When the show was slowly growing back in the early 90s, many viewers wondered why Angelica was so full of negativity and generally a bad child. The answer is here, the background story that has been hidden away for years. Angelica's mother, Charlotte, is almost always busy when present in a scene, constantly preoccupied with work. All the chatting on her cell phone with her assistant, it really wasn't necessary. Charlotte honestly had plenty of time for Angelica. She simply did not love her child and chose to hide behind work-related excuses to not be there for her. Her little angel was more of a living burden than a daughter. Charlotte was ultimately too cowardly to admit to her daughter she was living a lie, so Angelica never found out her mother didn't sincerely love her. She kept the act going until Angelica became a young adult and moved out to live on her own. As for Angelica's father, Drew, his character had a somewhat different hidden story. You'll notice how he usually refers to his daughter with pet names such as Angel or Princess, and generally seems to have more time for Angelica than her mother. He was a good father, at first, but somewhere along the first few years of raising Angelica, Drew began to grow irritable and full of anxiety from the lack of time with his always busy wife. She was usually that special someone who could make all his troubles go away after a long day at work. A few weeks after Charlotte had been promoted to the CEO position of Mega Corporation, Drew felt the toll from her new lack of free time. The two stopped spending Friday nights as date nights, cut back on quality time, and hardly even conversed about anything except work. Drew was too afraid of upsetting his wife to confess how her new position was tearing him apart. His bipolar disorder began to get the best of him, and that's when the changes started happening. Drew's behavior became exceptionally odd, so to speak. He was either ecstatic or depressed. Even Angelica noticed how much nicer he would be to her. Drew would usually become enraged if Angelica did something wrong, sometimes lashing out at her violently. Her father realized something was wrong when he saw bruises on Angelica, and remembered how he had inflicted them with his own hands. He sought psychiatric help and was able to keep his outbursts from becoming physical again. Drew would still raise his voice and be stern with Angelica, but sometimes hesitated to punish her, afraid he would lose control and regress to his violent behavior. This more normal Drew is the one we always saw. His more volatile form was before the events the show began with. The combination of Charlotte's selfishness and Drew's abusive temper tantrums caused Angelica to become spiteful, greedy, and at times not seen in the show, severely upset. She would cry and cry in her closet until she had no tears left, feeling so very sad and not knowing why. Her parents became quite annoyed with the noise, and noticed how sweets such as candy kept her calm and happy, and gave them time to focus on work. It wasn't long before they discovered she especially loved cookies, and would at times let her eat as many as she wanted for their own selfish motives and lazy parenting. Angelica gradually became addicted to the sugar and the sweets she ate, which is why she is constantly drawn to them in many episodes of Rugrats. Angelica's one true friend was her prized Cynthia doll. The girl became delusional after some time, and began to think Cynthia was a real person, and loved her the way her parents did not. Cynthia became Angelica's escape from the harsh reality of her home, and another tool her parents used to keep their daughter out of their hair. They saw how much she adored the little doll, and would buy her all the latest Cynthia merchandise and playsets to occupy her time. One reason Angelica was so cruel to the babies in the show was because she envied them. They were always so happy and played together, and she was alone and distraught. Angelica couldn't bear to see them having fun when she was sad. She knew she could never go back to being a simple, carefree baby, a truly happy form. So to answer the old question many fans of the show had, that is why Angelica Pickles was such a rotten child. She only wanted to have a normal family and friends of her own to play with. She only managed to cope with her horrible life by feeding her ravenous sugar addiction.